All right, let's dive right in. We're going to tackle a massive question today. How are we going to feed billions and billions of people? Well, the answer might not be where you'd expect. It's not in bigger farms, it's not more cattle, it's actually in something so incredibly small you can't even see it.
So first, let's just get our heads around the sheer scale of this challenge. By the middle of this century, which, is not that far away, our planet is going to be home to over 9 billion people. That is a whole lot of mouths to feed, every single day.
And it's not just about filling stomachs, it's about getting enough protein. The projection for 2054 is that we're going to need 943 million tons of it. Just think about that for a second. In only 40 years, our need for protein will have literally doubled. Our current food systems, they're already stretched pretty thin.
Which leads us to the biggest question of all. With land and water getting scarcer and our climate always changing, how on earth do we find all this protein in a way that doesn't break the planet? The answer, it turns out, is microscopic.
So, let's meet the potential hero of our story, single-cell protein, or as it's often called, SCP. This isn't some brand new idea. It's actually a pretty ingenious solution that's been in the works for decades.
Okay, so what is it exactly? Well, single-cell protein is basically just the protein-packed stuff you get from harvesting microorganisms. We're talking algae, yeast, bacteria. Think of it like farming microbes. And here's a fun fact for you. The name itself was coined back at MIT in 1968, mostly because the other options like microbial protein or petro-protein just didn't sound very appetizing.
And we've got a whole team of these little microscopic workers to choose from. Bacteria are the speed demons. They can double their mass in as little as 20 minutes, and they're just loaded with protein. Yeasts are a bit bigger, which actually makes them easier to collect. Fungi give us something called microprotein, and then you've got algae, which have this cool ability to use sunlight for energy.
After all that microbial magic is done, this is what you're left with. A really fine, dry powder that is just packed with protein and other good nutrients. It's an incredibly versatile ingredient you can add to just about anything, from animal feed to human food.
So you're probably wondering, how do you actually turn these tiny little microbes into a useful powder? Well, the whole process is kind of like brewing beer or making yogurt. It's just done on a massive industrial scale.
The basic recipe is surprisingly simple, really. You start with your chosen microbes, and then you give them something to eat, which is called a substrate. And this is the incredible part. Their food can be almost anything. We're talking about agricultural waste like sawdust, or industrial byproducts like molasses, or even natural gas. You just add some basic nutrients, put them in a controlled, oxygen-rich tank, and then you just let them grow. On an industrial level, it all follows a few key steps. First, you've got to pick the perfect microbe, one that grows fast and is totally safe. Then, you get its food, the substrate, all prepped. The real action happens during fermentation, where the microbes just multiply like crazy inside a huge container called a bioreactor. Finally, you harvest all that microbial mass, usually with a centrifuge, and then you dry it into that final powder we saw.
Okay, so this really gets to the core of why SCP is so incredibly exciting. It's not just another protein source. In a lot of ways, it's a smarter, better one.
I mean, this comparison really says it all. SCP is made in these big tanks, using a tiny, tiny fraction of the land you'd need for traditional farming. The whole growth cycle takes hours or days, not months or years. And this is huge. It doesn't matter if it's hot, cold, rainy, or dry. It's completely independent of weather and seasons, and it uses way less water. It basically sidesteps almost all the big problems of modern agriculture.
And what about the final product itself? Well, the protein content is just off the charts. SCP made from bacteria can be way more protein-dense than the stuff we use now, like soybean meal or even really high-quality fish meal.
And hey, this isn't just a fun idea. Researchers are really serious when they say SCP has the potential to straight up replace these conventional protein sources. A change like that could totally transform our entire agricultural supply chain.
But, it's not a perfect silver bullet. At least not yet. To really get the full picture, we have to talk about some of the hurdles that still need to be cleared before SCP can truly go mainstream.
So, while SCP is already being used in animal feed, there's one big biochemical hurdle when it comes to us humans eating a lot of it. And it all comes down to something called nucleic acids. See, because these microbes grow so incredibly fast, their cells are just jam-packed with genetic material, these nucleic acids.
When we eat them, our bodies break all that down into something called uric acid. Now, a little is fine, but too much can lead to really painful conditions like gout. So for SCP to become a staple in our diets, that nucleic acid level has to be brought way, way down, ideally to less than 2%.
And beyond the pure science, there are other real-world challenges. For one, making this stuff at scale is still pretty expensive. Then there's the whole public acceptance thing, getting people comfortable with the idea of eating protein that came from microbes. And of course, the final product has to be perfectly safe, totally flavorless, and have no smell to be a truly useful ingredient.
So, keeping all those challenges in mind, where is SCP being used right now, and what does the future look like? Is it ever going to make it from the animal feed trough to our dinner plates?
Well, right now, its biggest market, by far, is in animal nutrition, especially for fish farms, chickens, and calves. But it's also already in our food system, used as things like flavor carriers in soups, or to boost nutrition in baked goods. It even has some technical uses in things like paper and leather processing.
In fact, you've probably eaten some form of microbial protein without even thinking about it. That meat alternative, corn, that's made from mycoprotein, which comes from a fungus. That savory spread, Marmite, that's a yeast extract. And there have been commercial SCPs for animal feed, like protein, for decades now.
And that kind of brings us full circle, doesn't it? We have this incredible technology that can literally turn waste products into high-quality food using just a fraction of the resources and completely ignoring the weather. So I'll just leave you with this question to chew on. Could these tiny single-celled organisms really be the key to solving one of the biggest challenges humanity has ever faced?